you know that your serger embroiders? That's right. If you have a 5-thread serger, you can do single needle chain stitch embroidery on it. With this sewing hack, you don't have to go out and buy a whole new separate chain stitch embroidery machine. They're about $1,000 if you guys want to buy one, but you can use your 5-thread serger. This is so cool. I just love that vintage looking chain stitch embroidery. You see it on cardigans, you see it on the yoke of those Western wear shirts, maybe on the hem of a skirt or a dress. It's a beautiful way to add some extra detail to your project. This technique is easier than you think. Your mind is going to be blown. We are doing this on the serger. So come along on my chain stitch embroidery adventure. Let's get started. To do this, you're going to need whatever project it is you want to put the embroidery on, and you're going to need a fabric marker or some chalk because we are going to draw out our design on the wrong side of the project. We're drawing it out on the back because it's a straight looking stitch on the front, but on that back side is where you're going to see that beautiful chain stitch. So we need to make sure that we're drawing out our design on the wrong side of the project. Just real quick, if you want to learn more about sewing, make sure you check out my online sewing academy. And it's not out yet, but we have a whole serger course coming. And when it is out, the link for that will be down below in the description as well. Now let's get back to creating this embroidery. For my demo today, I'm going to be drawing out an A for my initial. So I drew out my A right here on the wrong side of the fabric. And now we can head over to the serger. I have my serger set up to a chain stitch, which means it only has one needle in it, and we're using the 5th thread. So in the 5th thread spot, I have a decorative thread, so that way we can get a nice pronounced embroidery. Now every serger can be set up a little differently, so just make sure you consult your manual for exactly how to set up your chain stitch for your serger. So you can see I have that decorative rayon thread here in that 5th thread, and then I just have a regular all-purpose thread in my needle thread. Before you start, you want to make sure you have some long thread tails. We're going to use those later to tie off. So just make sure you have about 6 inches back there. And now we're ready to start. So we are going to follow that design that we created. So just make sure your fabric is nice and flat. If you need to roll it up or fold it up, totally fine. And when you have that chain stitch selected, there's no blade on your sewing machine. So you just have an open bed here that you can work on. So I'm starting at the edge of that little curly spot on the A, and we're just gonna start serging essentially. We're gonna start running the chain stitch. Now, you're gonna wanna make sure you follow it as close as you can. And when you're turning, just slightly move it. And if you really need to make a turn, make sure your needle's down. So take your needle, put it down, lift up your foot, and just reposition yourself a little bit. Sometimes, depending on the design you created, you're gonna need to do a little turn. And I know with my serger, I don't have a needle down function because we usually want the needle up when we stop. So I'm gonna have to make sure my needle is in the fabric before I do any moving. I'm gonna need that thread later, so I'm gonna just keep that over there. I don't wanna cut it off. Now I'm just gonna keep following the design of the A. Again, we're at the tip. We're gonna make sure that needle's in, lift up our foot, and we're gonna turn our design. Okay, now when you end, there's a very special way to end. We're going to lift up our foot. We're going to take our tweezers and we're going to lift up your presser foot with your hand, take that thread and pull it towards you. Now what I want you to do is cut that thread. I'm just going to wrap it on my thread cutter. And now you can pull out your project, pull it to the back. And then you're going to have that bottom thread here to cut as well. To finish the design, we need to tie off these ends, otherwise it'll fall apart. So just take both of the threads, and I just like to tie it in a knot. You could thread them to the back and do the same thing, but since this is just a series of knots, I think it totally looks fine. I like to do it twice, and then I cut off the extras. Now on the other side, you're gonna notice you only have one thread. So what you want to do is bring up that other thread, just find it in the design here, just pull it up. And now we're going to do the same thing and make a knot. And then just like that, you have your chain stitch embroidery finished off at the ends. Now I have one step left, and that's just finishing off the line through my A. So I'm gonna go over to the chain stitch and do that and finish off the ends as well. Before I start, one tip I have is that if it's bunching up on the other side or looks real loose in the beginning, take your 5th thread here and hold it in the beginning, creating some extra tension on it. You could also increase your tension on the thread in your serger. That little line was super easy, so we're just gonna end here. Everything's looking great, and I'm just gonna tie this off the same way I did before. Let's take a look at our chain stitch embroidery that we did on the serger. Can you believe this? So you can see we have that embroidery on the right side of our fabric, but when we created it on the wrong side of the fabric. So now we get that chain stitch on the right side of the fabric. Isn't this so cool that you can chain stitch on your serger? Oh my God, who would have ever thought? You can get creative with this. You're not limited to initials. You can make flowers, you can make designs, you can make any picture you want. Switch out the threads and make it full of a bunch of different colors even. The sky is the limit here. And I would love to see what you create with this. So please tag me in your finished projects or your projects in process. And let me know what you think about this. Do you think it's as cool as I do? Are you going to try it? And what kind of serger do you have at home? Thanks so much for watching Sewing Anastasia today. If you guys have any questions, just leave it down below and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. And if you're not already a subscriber, well, subscribe. And if you enjoyed the video, make sure you like it and hit that notification bell so you know when the new videos come out. And if you're already a subscriber, well, thank you so much for watching today. Let me know what you'd like to see coming up in the comments below. And if you're in Chicago, come on into the design studio and take some sewing classes with me. And if you're not, well, that's okay. Check out the online sewing academy that we started. There's a link for both down below. And let's not forget the sewing club with the private Discord and a pattern every month. There's also a link down below for that. And don't forget to follow me on Instagram. You can check out all the daily happenings in the studio and my Instagram stories. And thanks so much for watching. Bye!